Hello and welcome to the Sportlink podcast, this week brought to you in association with Saucony. I'm Mark Armstrong. This week, myself and John Downs are very honoured to feature a bona fide Great Britain Olympic legend in Jo Pavey. Jo is sporting royalty, and we talked to her about her many achievements and find out what makes her tick as she targets a record 6th Olympics appearance later this year in Tokyo. John offers his training tip of the week, and in Hijinks with John, Mr. Downs reveals how one of his competitors couldn't get rid of him. So, John, how are you, mate? All right?
All good, mate. Yeah, weather's a bit better, so we can get out for longer walks. Not raining as much, so yeah, happy days at the moment.
Good stuff. I mean, it's an absolute pleasure to have Jo on the podcast with this week. I mean, what are your recollections of Jo?
Gosh, I mean, obviously living in England and stuff like that, and watching her coming back from, because she was out for a long time. I'd heard of her name when she was a young kid and stuff like that. But obviously when she started to make the breakthrough and started doing stuff from about 97 onwards, but look, her career speaks for itself. 5-time Olympian, European champion at 40 years of age, European bronze medalist at cross country. So she's not just been good on the roads, good on the track. She's actually got a lot of dexterity there. A phenomenally tough athlete. When she ran, she gave of her best. There was nothing left. So brought me very many happy memories watching her run and compete, and really looking forward to talking to her today, Mark.
Jo Pavey, welcome to the Sportlink podcast. It's a real privilege to have you on. How are you?
All right, thanks. Thanks for having me on. It's a real privilege to talk to you. Thanks very much.
Good stuff. How has life been, lockdown been for you? How's the last year been?
Yeah, it's been tough. I think like many busy parents, I've struggled with the homeschooling. We definitely appreciate what a great job the teachers do, because when we have to do it ourselves, we realise how tricky it is. And of course, it's like the children have got lots of homework every day, and it felt a bit unhealthy in the end, trying to get them to do it all the time at home, and trying to juggle the schooling with keeping my training going for my running, with aspirations to compete. It was quite tricky. And then of course not being able to go to my normal training locations. Some locations are too far to drive, and then also I've struggled with not being able to use a track. That's kind of my biggest frustration at the moment, because I really want to get racing on the track, and there's not a track facility that I've been able to use really for the last sort of year really. So yeah, but I'm plugging away, keeping it going.
How have you got around that? Have you got like a 400-meter stretch outside your door that you do, or how do you get around it?
Yeah, I've mostly been doing a lot of road sessions. I've done a lot more hill sessions than I normally do, because they really get you fit, a good for aerobic capacity and dynamic leg strength. And I've definitely done more hills, and it's really hilly where I live. So it's probably done me a lot of good in that respect, toughened me up a bit. But yeah, it's been harder to get places for quality running. But I have got an area where there's a stretch of flat road, and I've been enjoying doing some sessions up there. I've done a few sessions on a grass field, and done a lot of sort of timed loops at home and things like that. But yeah, just sort of keeping plugging away, and also using my treadmill. I mean, the treadmill is really useful, especially when it's been dark during the winter and we've got no street lights where I live. So with the children at home, I have been doing a lot of evening running on the treadmill, and actually that can be really good for tempo runs as well. There's nowhere to hide. You set it at a certain pace, you've got to stay on it, otherwise you fall off the back. And I've got kind of markers of what I was able to say sustain for say 20 minutes at certain levels of fitness during my career, so I can ramp it up to that and see if I can stay on it. And that's been useful. But yeah, I mean, I'm still just enjoying my running, so I'm just gonna keep going and see how I can do really.
Are you sort of interested to see how this it's a different sort of training, I suppose, that you've done compared to previous years? You wouldn't choose to do your training this way. Are you sort of interested to see how that sort of bears out in this year and in the future?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just loving running. I'm loving getting out. There's a lot spoken about physical and mental health. Mental health has been such a great topic during the lockdown, and I just love getting out to run because I just love running. As far as racing, I have found it frustrating not being able to use a track, just because I think during my career the track has always been an important gauge for me on how I'm getting on. I've got like loads of training diaries written down with all the times that I need to achieve on the track, and I kind of lack confidence a bit not being able to use a track at all. Of course you can do sessions elsewhere, and I hope I can get to quite a high fitness level, but it's all that sort of icing on the cake type work where you really can blast a few 400s and things like that. I feel like I'm really hungry to get out there and try and do. And of course, younger athletes, which, you know, yeah, of course they're going to go out to training camps overseas that they've been able to do, or they're based in endurance centres or high performance centres. But, you know, I obviously don't blame them. If I was at a different stage in my career, I would obviously relocate to somewhere overseas or something where I could have had all that track access. But the stage I'm at, which obviously I'm really happy with, being a busy mum and, you know, all the things that's needed, I've stayed based in the UK, which normally is completely fine with being able to use certain facilities and that, but it's been a bit tricky this time. But yeah, I'm going to just give it a go this year and see how I can do, definitely.
Will you be able to use the facilities now when they open up close to you after the 28th? Will you be able to use those facilities? Are you not sure yet?
Yeah, I'm not totally sure yet because there's no one there to phone. And it could be that it will be just available for club nights to begin with, but I can go along to the club nights, obviously. It'd be nice to see people and stuff at my club Exeter Harriers. But of course, that means that it doesn't give you that pure flexibility to use the track on other days as well. Because, you know, like club nights tend to be like Tuesday and Thursday, whereas you know, for many, many years, I would not normally do a track session with one day in between, then another track session, and then not do any the rest of the days. It kind of, to me, for injury prevention and consistency, it makes more sense to have at least 2 days between your track workouts. It doesn't mean you can't go and do a different type of workout. Of course, you're not going to do no training, but it makes sense to spread the track sessions out. And, you know, and also with competitions coming up, you can get quite fussy which day you want to use a track. You know, it's not just any day we do type thing. So yeah.
Well, that's the thing with an elite athlete. It's very different to club running, in that you'd use, there can be no days of the week in a way, Joe, in that you'd use it what was right for your body to recover and then do the next workout. So the flexibility being able to use a track when you want was probably more up your street than club athletics for younger kids at the time, you know.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, as I've got older and had a busy family life, I'm juggling things. And even without COVID, I'm trying to work around things. And, you know, I did used to live in southwest London for a few years during the younger part of my career. And I did kind of have access to a track whenever I really needed it because I was based in a high performance centre. Whereas, you know, living in Devon, we've got a wonderful facility, but of course it's very well used in a normal situation. It's booked up for school sports days and all sorts of organisations booking it. So I always have needed to juggle around, but I'm not complaining because it's good that the track is well used. You know, we want groups of people to be there enjoying it. But so yeah, I wouldn't say I had it exactly when I want, but I would normally be able to find some point over the sort of couple of days that I'd be thinking of to fit around it. And I was able to ring up the track and work out what the availability was for the week. And then I could really sort out my training plan for that week and where it's all going to fit in and everything. But yeah, I mean, I'm getting older, but I'm still keen. I'm still enjoying it.
Yeah, definitely.
Give it a go. I mean, I think the thing is, if you love running, you just want to keep doing it. And if there's any achievements that happen, it's kind of a byproduct of how much you're just enjoying doing what you do, really.
Yeah, good point.
So what have you got coming up, Jo? Have you sort of planned? Obviously, the Olympics is obviously the goal, but have you got anything planned in the next sort of? Have you got it all mapped out?
Yeah, I mean, my main focus, as you said, is the trials for the 10,000. You know, I do want to make the point that I know it's a big ask. Obviously, there's younger athletes running extremely well. But, you know, I just want to give it a go. And that is kind of my main focus. Other years where I've done that trial, I haven't actually raced before it. Like when in 2014, I was really thrilled to win the trial, but I hadn't raced before it because I was coming back from having a baby and it was like my first race back, and fortunately it worked out okay, and I just couldn't really justify racing before it because I needed every bit of training I could get. At the moment, I'm looking at perhaps competing in some BMC races, which I've got in mind leading up to the date of the trial. I do want to get on the track. I'm planning to do like a speed session tonight. And as far as my training, I'm really going to refocus now on just quality training as far as, you know, cutting down the distances and trying to get, and I think I'm going to go into that mode now that I've been used to doing when races approach, where I kind of drop some of the longer runs, but add in more sessions and more frequency of the sessions type thing. So with that in mind, I'd like to try and do a track race before the trial. I mean, it is a bit later this year in June, as in when I did it as my first race back in 2014, it was on May the 10th. So it was particularly early that year. And so I just went with it really. And, you know, it was a big surprise to me then because I was very much just trying to scrape a place in the team. So I was thrilled to win that trial and then to go on to win the gold at the Europeans in Zurich was just a massive shock. And I was getting older then, and I think that sort of then made me think, right, you know, maybe I could go on and try and get a place in the next Olympics, which was in 2016. And I think it's always just fun to see how far you can take things, even if things don't work out. You just enjoy the journey, and it's just fun to have a go and not put limits on yourself, really.
Well, that achievement by you had so many mums come to running over here. They were so inspired by it, and it was so exciting. I mean, it's probably one of my stand-up moments watching you, shouting on the television for you to win. It was an amazing moment. But the amount of people that came down who had kids and were inspired by what you did was unbelievable. I mean, did you really, did that kind of, were you surprised afterwards about how many people came up to you about what you'd achieved and the age you were and what you'd done?
Yeah, I was really flattered. You know, I didn't expect people to really notice it that much, and I was really flattered and just very, very grateful for all the support. But I think really, you know, it's not about me. It's about the fact that you know, there's been a lot of talk about carrying on and trying to achieve your dreams, you know, at whatever stage of life and however busy your life is. And I think really it told me a lot about the fact that when I was younger, I thought I was doing everything right, which was purely just focusing on running, going to training camps overseas, and just literally having no responsibilities whatsoever apart from training, resting, trying to eat at the right times, and then going from that to having a busy life, you know, being a busy parent like so many people are, and lots of other responsibilities, not going overseas, staying put in the UK. That was actually the circumstances that led me to achieve something that I thought I would never achieve, really. And so it taught me a lot about you know, being grateful to be able to put the message out there that, oh, perhaps you can still achieve things even though
yeah, definitely.
I feel like it's too late or there's obstacles in the way and things like that. So that was you know, a nice feeling to sort of feel like, yeah, you know, you can still do things like that, hopefully.
Do you think having a family, obviously having a family, that becomes your main focus? Do you think that's helped in your athletics career as well, in that you have learned to sort of just compartmentalize family and athletics, and you can just enjoy the athletics more, and that's possibly where the better performances have come from?
Yeah, I think you're right. Compartmentalizing things is definitely a thing which happened to me, because instead of stressing about training and racing, I would get on the track, train as hard as I could, but not dwell on it or worry about it beforehand. And I think when I was at the track, I really wanted to make it count. And also just generally with normal running, I think it's very motivating to keep active as a family. You know, showing your kids that it's fun to be active is a really positive thing. And I think many people find that if you can get out and be active with your kids and keep active together, which I was able to do with a lot of my training, I found that a really positive and a motivating factor, definitely.
Great stuff.
Go on. Sorry, go on, Mark. You asked this question. I'll go next one.
I was just going to ask, where do you think your motivation comes from, just to keep going, Joe? Like the way you have, you mentioned how much obviously you love running. Is that basically the main part of it?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many reasons. I think I love setting myself goals. I love the process of mapping out a plan and having like mini goals along the way and trying to achieve each stage and then seeing how far I can take it and enjoying the journey. I love, like I said, keeping active with my family. I love getting out for a run, just the sheer sort of boost it gives you to your mental health, especially getting out amongst beautiful scenery. I really enjoy that, and I love how running makes you feel when you get back in the door. I think you feel more ready to face the challenges of everyday sort of busy life. And I think it's just something I love as well is being part of the running community. I know we've all struggled not being able to meet up with fellow runners and not being able to go to events, but you know, when COVID isn't happening and before COVID, just the feeling of being part of the running community, whether that's going to events, to races and going to things like Park Run, and just, you know, the running community is so brilliant. Of course, we've really experienced how that's really come together, even with lockdown, with all this sort of social interaction online and everything's been a positive thing. But I think we're all looking forward to meeting up again in person where we can. And, you know, being part of that is a massive motivator for me. And yeah, I mean, I think the list can be endless of what keeps people running, you know, and I'm the same. I love running and always want to sort of recommend it to people who haven't tried it and say, you know, come on, it's addictive, you'll love it, and it's just so brilliant, and so many great things about being a runner.
I want to go back a little bit in terms of when you were a youngster and that you were really, really good. And then I think you were out for quite a considerable amount of time. I think it was 9 or 10 years or something like that. And do you think that period when you were out, did it allow you to get stronger as a person in terms of like you weren't putting pressure on your body, you weren't getting injured or anything like that? And then when you did come back into it, that actually period out was actually a blessing in disguise, because looking at what you've gone on to achieve, I mean, like I was looking through your achievements this morning, and I've seen them before, but again, when you look at them, I mean, it's mind-boggling what you've achieved and what you've done. Do you think that helped? And did it kind of add fuel to the fire? Then that when you did come back, you were looking at probably where most athletes are hungry at the beginning, and at the end of their career, they say, well, not many next years. Do you think it helped you a lot, Jo?
Yeah, I think, you know, I learned a lot. I think as a young schoolgirl, you know, at first I could get away with doing whatever training. I didn't pick up any injuries. I was really fortunate to win the English schools, and that was a big experience that I had as a youngster. And then I got injured for really sort of 6 or 7 seasons after that. And it was really, really a frustrating time. And I think at the time I wasn't aware of that transition to training as a more senior athlete. I wasn't aware of the effect of growing on my body, all the changes that would happen, and how to listen to my body and, you know, work out all the certain things. And that's one of the things I'm excited about now, that I'm working on a mentor program with Saucony. It hasn't been launched yet, but we're working on setting that up.
Good.
Yeah, and it's hope that we can work with young up and coming athletes as a mentoring role, and it's very much working with the coaches and athletes and providing any additional support really that they might want. And it would also involve providing services such as physiotherapy and things like that. So I'm excited about that, because I know that without that kind of guidance, even though I had a great coach who I will always be grateful for, I think I wasn't aware of like the changes on my body and how that could make me injured if I still tried to carry on with the same training program and increase my training. So I did end up injured for sort of 6 or 7 years, and then I always kept interested. I never gave up, and I did race sort of sporadically, but then my husband and I went backpacking around the world, and we had this kind of secret ambition that, oh, maybe I could make it as a senior athlete. You know, I'd had a bit of time away from hard training because I trained to be a physiotherapist at university. I'd worked with a physiotherapist. I trained with, you know, people in Bristol, had a great coach there as well. And, but never really probably was training hard enough through setbacks and everything. But when I came back from backpacking, I'd had that real sort of rejuvenation of my running. I trained in beautiful places. I'd managed to get some more consistent training going, and I came back. At first I was a bit rusty on the track, having not used a track while I was away, and I didn't get back till sort of the first week of April. So at first it wasn't necessarily sort of recognised that perhaps I could get a qualifying time, but I kept plugging away, had all that fitness from training while I was backpacking, and I made the World Championships in Athens in 1997.
Yeah.
And again, I think, you know, I had great support around that time, but I think it was me really thinking if I could do that off backpacking, and really it was, you know, myself, it wasn't anybody else to blame. I was like thinking, right, now I want to get stronger, faster. I want to do lots of gym work. I want to do plyometrics and sprints. And again, just wanting to introduce everything too suddenly, I ended up injured for another 2.5 years and ended up really injuring my knee, which I had an operation on. And again, I didn't really sort of go into it gradually enough, probably just because it was the way I felt. I thought, right, if I've done this off backpacking, I just want to add everything in now and go for it.
Right.
And so really going to into my first Olympics, and having mentoring myself then from another athlete really helped me, because I took it back to basics, and rather than try and do everything, we prioritized on the important aspects of training and really made sure that was done rather than trying to do everything. And I did make my first games, and I I've got all this knowledge stored in me now, and I sort of had to work on that same principle when I was coming back from having a baby on both occasions, thinking, right, okay, what do I need to do to achieve in that specific event I'm aiming for? So yeah, definitely the setbacks, as you were talking about, have definitely prepared me for other parts of my career. So you're definitely right. Yeah.
Brilliant.
How much strength and conditioning do you have to do, Jo, still, and has that changed, as you say, as you become a mother?
Yeah, I think earlier in my career, I'd maybe go to the gym and not do heavy weights or anything, but it was just I had time on my hands to do that. So why wouldn't I type thing before I had children? Whereas now I do some strength and conditioning, but it's very much just in the lounge, you know, a few light weights, focusing on core stability. And I've also learned from experience that I don't want to do too much of a heavy program that would encroach on my running sessions. And I think I learned that could actually cause injury if you do too many sort of strength and conditioning things. If you're not particularly strong at doing that, and then you go out and do a hard workout, you can get injured. So it's all about fitting it in the right place in your program and not doing it at the wrong times. And also, you know, thinking about changing it at different parts of the year. But yeah, I do it a little bit, a couple of times a week, but it's very much functional sort of body weight exercises as the main priority, and core stability, and doing exercises that work on running form, really. You know, I wouldn't choose to do something like leg extensions on a machine. Obviously I haven't got that at home, but say if someone's in a gym, I wouldn't do like hamstring curls or leg extensions, because they're kind of open chain exercises which don't really relate to running, which is, you know, when your foot's on the floor, you want to move in a functional way. You're not going to be doing that sort of movement and making big muscles for the sake of it type thing.
Yeah, interesting. Looking back at your career and stuff like that, and what was the high point for you where you felt, God, this is, I still want to run, I still want to compete, but what did you feel was the best moment for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think highlights on my career, I've been fortunate to have so many great experiences. And when I look back at my career, I should really remember, you know, all the amazing people I've met over the years. That's what I always say to people. Being a runner, I've just met so many amazing people, and, you know, people are just so inspiring, and I've been to many places. I've experienced being part of the team. I suppose highlights for me obviously was winning the gold over the age of 40, like I said, in Zurich. I feel really fortunate to have been to 5 Olympic Games, because it's such an honour to represent your country, and just be part of that Olympic team is such a life experience. So I feel really fortunate. I suppose getting the bronze at the World Championships retrospectively is a bittersweet moment. To have finished 4th on the day and feeling frustrated to then 10 years later being awarded the bronze medal, and all the sort of emotions that come with that, really, having missed the moment on the podium, but pleased to finally achieve the medal, and getting it awarded in front of my children, of course my husband as well, and my parents, but getting a medal when I did the race they weren't even born, so that was interesting as well. But I mean, I've had many wonderful experiences just because I've been very fortunate to go to a lot of different things.
You have, and I mean, and even one of them is a bronze medal at the European cross country and stuff, you know, and part of the team and that. So you've had a great group of people around you in terms of your competitors and probably friends for life out of it. That's another aspect that you're after saying there, which is I experienced myself, but it's you've just mentioned it, that it's the amount of people you meet, the good people you meet in the sport, is actually, when you think back, is actually quite humbling.
No, it is just brilliant. And I think of all the people that I've met and that I know that I wouldn't know if I hadn't been a runner. I mean, it's like the amount of people in your circle to such a small amount. You know, obviously I've got great friends in the village where I live and old school friends, of course I have, but like the amount of people that the running community extends you to being linked with is massive, and I feel very grateful for that. Yeah.
That World Championship bronze, did you feel bitter towards that, Jo, that in fact you had to get it retrospectively, or did it make it more special, as you say, that your kids were around and could see you get the medal?
I think it was kind of frustrating in that obviously I did have my suspicions when I finished fourth. You know, I think many people would say that about athletes they've competed against that have been found to be cheating, that you do have your suspicions. Of course you do. So I wasn't surprised that this athlete was cheating. I was very surprised that they finally caught her. And I think I felt frustrated that because I'd missed the moment on the podium, if I'd come third on the day and been promoted to second, it would have been such a big difference. But the feeling of like just missing out, and it wasn't like I was trailing in fourth, I only just couldn't hold on and just missed out on maintaining that third place on the day by quite a small amount. And so that was frustrating, and I lay on the track and there's a photo of me laying on my back on the track just feeling frustrating. I think when I came into the warm down area, that was really what I felt, that had, you know, even though I didn't say it to the media because I had no exact proof at that time, I felt like had people not been cheating in the race, I could have already have a medal, and I never thought I'd get that medal back. I think as an athlete, you miss out on many opportunities during that 10-year phase. Of course, like going forward, you feel like you've failed, you feel like you've let your friends and your family down and people that have supported you who were thinking you had a chance of a medal type thing. You know, as far as sponsorship and opportunities, you miss out on that because 10 years later, it doesn't make any difference. You don't get all that back again. You know, obviously running is about enjoyment and achievement, but as far as bonuses that you might have got from certain things, and like for going to events or, you know, and things like that, you don't get any of that back. And it's difficult once you get to a certain age. I think it's kind of too late to have benefited from something that was 10 years ago in that respect. And also it would have helped me early on in my career if I'd achieved some medals just the way I felt. I definitely had a feeling of, right, back to the drawing board and going through the next winter's training, almost loving the feeling of it being an opportunity, but also, if I'm honest, a feeling of dread of it going wrong again. Because like even when I think back to, you know, some of the like other, like one of the other European championships where I was fourth, and the three athletes ahead of me that day when I was fourth have been banned, but I don't get that medal back. And again, if I'd got a medal at that stage of my career, it would have helped me to sort of it would give me confidence, but also it would prevent you having years where you feel like, right, back to the drawing boards, try and get this right, and the sort of the worry of it happening again a little bit, because you've got, I think it's just the fact that you know how lucky you are that fans and of the sport, and your friends and your family are all supporting you. You don't want to let them down again, and then it happens again. That's a nasty feeling as well, especially when you cross the line and you've got your suspicions, you know, that it's taken it away from you. I think if I'd got some medals earlier on, that it's been shown I should have got, the same as, you know, many athletes have been in this position. It's not just all about, you know, oh, my situation, because it's happened to many athletes, but it can actually knock you in that way as well.
Yeah, but it's also the justification to keep going, because you're trying to justify something and you're not able to because of circumstances beyond your control. And you're very acutely aware, even though they're backing you, that you feel like, well, I haven't produced the goods, but it's not my fault. And it's to try and keep going. It's a tough one.
Yeah.
It's a tough one to keep going.
I think in a lot of ways, when it was happening, I was frustrated, but I also just was so focused on what am I going to do to make myself better. It was just an extra thing that I felt I had to try and beat, was the fact that some people would be dishonest and be cheating, but that doesn't remove from how determined you feel to improve yourself, because you know the only thing you can do as a clean athlete is just try and improve your own training methods, look back at your diaries, where do things go wrong. So you've still got that huge motivation to make yourself better and quicker, because you just know it's just another factor. And you know, even when I won the gold at the Europeans, there was people in the race that got banned after that race, and that almost feels more emotional in some ways. You think even when you did finally get that result, there's still people in the race trying to take it away from you, you know?
Yeah, it could have been so different.
Yeah. And yeah, and so you know, you've got to have confidence in yourself that you can still raise your own performance. You can still go away and further yourself. And the thing is, like, talking about it now, it's not really what I dwell on. I dwell on all the amazing experience I had, and also I want to portray a positive message about the sport to youngsters coming through, because I want to encourage them. I want to say to them what a great time I've had, because I have, you know.
Well, I think you are about what you're saying, but you obviously have to speak about the facts as they happen. But my talking to you and Mark talking to what I picked up from you in this last 40 minutes or whatever is your mental tenacity is absolutely astounding. I think, you know, you've got obviously great attributes. You're a fantastic runner. You've got a great gift in that. But I think your tenacity, your mental tenacity from what stuff that's happened to you as a kid in terms of the injuries and so on, the setbacks of running against people who have obviously cheated. I think your mental tenacity is absolutely off the charts, to be quite honest with you, to keep coming back. And even now, trying to make in a 6th Olympic Games says an awful lot about you, to be quite honest. Yeah, I take my hat off to you, to be quite honest. So is it something you've thought about, how strong your mental tenacity is?
I don't know, really. I think I just enjoy running, and if you find something that you really enjoy, you know, you're gonna keep sort of plugging away, trying to achieve your goals and things like that. But yeah, I just love running. I love interval sessions as well. Like, I love going for long runs in beautiful locations, but I love like trying to hit targets. If I've set myself a target on the track and then trying to hit those times, I enjoy that. I like it broken up into segments, and I suppose that's why I still have aspirations to compete as well, because I do enjoy that way of training as well as just going out for a beautiful run in beautiful scenery. So I like all aspects of it, really.
So how confident are you, Jo, ahead of the trials? Are you nervous about it, excited? How do you feel about it?
Well, I say, I know that it's a very big ask. I'm getting older every day, and with the delay of a year, I'm even older. People have pointed out to me, but I think, you know, I'm just going to try and get ready for the trials. Like I said earlier, I am frustrated that I haven't been able to get on a track, because I feel like that really can show me where I'm at. But I don't want to be negative about that as well. I know you can go training in other places, but I feel like you know, you wouldn't go to a championship, would you, and put your toe on the start line having not been on a track? You know, you just need that icing on the cake type training. And I feel like it's very hard to put my finger on really totally how I'm getting on until I can do that, because that will show me what work I need to do and where I'm at as well.
Do you feel good in yourself though? You feel you like as well as you can, sort of in the circumstances?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm not injured. I'm able to go out running twice a day and do my long runs, and yeah, you know, I can't complain in that respect. I've not been suffering with lots of injuries and things like that. It was obviously quite tiring with the homeschooling, and I felt like I became quite disorganized because I either had to be training or homeschooling, and the homeschooling seemed to mentally drag on to too late in the day. It didn't sort of finish at, you know, 3:30 or whatever, because it still wasn't done at that time a lot of the time. And of course we wanted to get the kids outside and get them active as well, and of course we didn't always get all the work done in time, and so therefore it felt like a bit of a continual torment, which I know did for many people.
Parent guilt, hey, yeah.
Yeah, so at least that's not happening now. It does feel like a big weight off, you know, my mind. My husband and I, obviously, you know, my husband is coaching me and it's all about effort, and it does feel like a weight off my mind. Not really just for us. I feel pleased that I'm not having to ask the children to do the schoolwork all the time. It is the guilt as well, that you feel like home is their happy, safe place, and you just end up nagging them too much.
I know. That was about it. Yeah. Your relationship with your husband and the coaching, is there a time you talk about it a lot, or switch off from it? You know, like you just don't talk about it at all. What's the relationship like as a coach with him?
Yeah, I mean, I enjoy the fact that we can just talk about the training whenever. We don't have to make specific meetings and things like that. And, you know, obviously there's so many great coaches out there that are working with athletes. For me, with my husband, I felt like it added flexibility as well, like fitting around busy family life. I could be more flexible, and if you're down the track a bit later than you planned, it doesn't matter. But also it's fun to work towards goals together. I think it feels sort of within the family we're all aiming for the same goal, and that's quite a nice feeling as well. And it's maybe easier to be honest with how you're feeling about the training and what you need to do. And during an actual session, if I've got a niggle and everything, I'll probably feel more comfortable with saying, oh, I'm not able to complete that. I mean, obviously you should be able, most athletes would obviously feel they can do that with your coach as well, that isn't your husband. But I think it just, for me, it probably would feel easier to be sort of totally transparent with everything that's going on, really.
Right. Okay.
I've got to ask you, we put out a post on social media yesterday, Joe, for any questions that they want to ask you. And one of them was, what's your favourite training session and why?
Well, I like track sessions. A session that I feel I'm always able to pull off, if you know what I mean, even if I'm having a good or a bad day. And she'd laugh really, so it's probably because I get to stop every lap. But I love doing 16 400s off 35 seconds. But I do a block of 8 off 35 seconds, then have a 5-minute rest and do another block of 8. But I really enjoy, like, you just get enough time to get your breath back and then you go again. But when I'm training for sort of 10K and above, I will then do something else after that. Often I'll do like between a 7 to 10 minute tempo effort, so I can practice pushing myself to the limit and I'll still be on the track whilst I'm already tired. And then I'll stop and I'll maybe then do a couple of 200s just to finish fast, so I'll make it a bit longer. But I've always loved the repeat 400s. I just love to see how quick I can get the average speed of them. Also, other ones, obviously, I like sort of 8 to 10 times a K, but I find that more of a really like having to get into the zone, because I'm quite worried that I want to get them to the right pace, but I still enjoy that. I often enjoy like differentials. I might do sort of 5 times a mile where I'll do the last lap quicker to practice change of pace at the end of the race. I like that sort of session. I enjoy tempo runs. I really enjoy going to this place where there's a road right up through the woodland, and I'll run, and it's slightly downhill, so I'll run down to the start point as my warm-up, and then I run as hard as I can up the hill, and then when I get to the top, like, it can take about 13 minutes, it's quite a long hill, and then I'll run back again because the top bit's a bit flatter, and then back again, so I've done 20 minutes. But I like to see how quick I can get from the start point to the end point, so I want to try and get there in less than 13 minutes, so I enjoy challenging myself like that. And yeah, so I enjoy that sort of thing. When I'm on runs now with the GPS watches that I have now, I do get quite competitive with myself. If I'm just on an hour's run, if it's meant to be more of a pacey run, I'm kind of making mental calculations in my head as I go to see if I can keep average, and I'm like adding up, all right, I'm 10 down or I'm 10 up, and I set myself a target as I'm going, but not if I'm doing a recovery run. I try and be sensible, but I've really noticed that I've got competitive with myself. So I enjoy that sort of training as well. But yeah, track sessions, if I had to go for my favourite, I'd definitely say the repeat 400s. I just love the sort of burst of energy trying to get round and then again, and you never get your breath back. It's sort of, good challenge, I think.
Right. I've forgotten all that. Come here, just going to go back in your career in terms of your times and stuff. I've been looking at your PBs and stuff like that. 4:01 for 1500, 4:30 for a mile, 8:31 for 3K, 14:39 for 5K, 30:53 for 10K, 68:53 for a half marathon, 2:28:24 for a marathon. What is your favorite PB of those distances I've mentioned? What's your standout one that you felt that's the one I'm the most proud of?
I think probably equivalently the best one is the 14:39 for 5K. I think that even though I've tried half marathon and marathon, even at the prime of my career, I'm just not so suited to those sort of events. And I did notice during the prime of my career that when I'd be racing certain athletes on the track and I was competitive with them, then if I went to half marathon, there'd be certain people that I was no longer able to be as competitive against.
Right.
Definitely more suited to track running, and I'm probably more suited to anything between 1500 and 5K. And so I'll always try my best. I'll run until I'm lying on the floor, but I was just more suited.
Yeah.
I think the 5K PB probably sort of illustrates that's probably my better PB, and the other ones aren't probably equivalently as
well,
strong.
There's a few people that would swipe the hand off you for a lot of those PBs, but I actually thought that's the one you say myself, to be quite honest. It's an outstanding personal best. Yeah, I didn't feel as competitive, but I mean, looking at your times there, they're absolutely fantastic.
I think the interesting thing was obviously that the event changed from 3K to 5K for women, and even though I had opportunity to run a lot of 3Ks, it wasn't a championship event. So I always wonder, would I have focused more on 3,000 if it had been the championship event, or would I have moved up to the 10,000? Even with 10,000, I feel that you've got to be, for me personally, I've got to be having a really good day. I think, to be honest, I think anyone would find that. I think the longer the distance, the less place there is to hide, isn't there? Like, because you take it to an extreme marathon. If you're not having a good day, if you're not having a good day with a marathon, then you just can't get a reasonable time, because you just lose everything, don't you, if you really blow up. And I think anything shorter, even though you can have a bad day, there's less potential for it being a really bad day, because of the, once you lose the feeling of feeling good, you've got a long way to go with things like the marathon. So.
Well, I don't know if it's happened in your career, but I know there's certain races I started, and within about 400 meters, you go, oh no, it's just going to be one of those days. And it's a horrible feeling, and you've got to keep going. But it's just, you just know. But I mean, obviously, the shorter the distance, if it's 3K, 5K, you're looking at damage limitations. It might be 20 seconds outside your PB. But if it's a half marathon, it's a long day at the office. Yeah. It really is.
I did enjoy the process of trying to do the marathon because it was just such a new challenge at the time. You know, I felt like I dabbled in it and enjoyed the whole sort of new goal of working out all the drink strategies and the excitement of taking part, because I was fortunate enough to compete in the London Marathon and the New York City Marathon, both massive marathons, and their experiences I'll never forget. So I'm glad I've done it, because for anybody, you know, running down that mile at the end of the London Marathon to experience that for real, I think it's a very exciting thing to be able to do. So I'm glad that I've had those opportunities, definitely.
Would you consider going back to it sort of post your sort of elite career, Jo? Do you think you'd go back to doing more road racing and more marathons, half marathons and that sort of thing?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely want to get out racing on the roads. I'm, you know, looking if there's any 10Ks and that I can do in the short term. And yeah, I would love to do another marathon, but for now I'm focusing on sort of 5K, 10K again, which I love. But yeah, I really enjoy doing the marathon as well.
Great stuff, great stuff.
So you've been sponsored now by Saucony and stuff like that, and you're obviously trying to do a mental program that you said you're writing up and stuff like that. But as a shoe company and stuff like that, and you probably have access to the shoes and stuff, like anything that you feel good about them, any shoes that you recommend and stuff like that, and what you think is the best that you felt in any of their shoes at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, I'm thrilled to be with Saucony because I think the footwear is absolutely amazing, because they're real a runner's brand. You know, the way shoes feel and the way they're dynamic and really sort of fit for purpose. You know, absolutely brilliant. I'd say for all-round training shoe, I really like the Saucony Ride. The Ride 13's out at the moment, and I used to like the previous Rides, but the latest ones have really sort of improved further with the sort of dynamic feel of the cushioning, and they're good for long mileage runs and for tempo runs and interval sessions. I use them for on the road as well. And Triumph I like for a bit more cushioning. And what I love as well is amazing trail shoe. I've really struggled with trail shoes before I was with Saucony because they were always far too stiff, and the Peregrine is nice and flexible and dynamic, so I like that. Obviously on the racing side, Endorphin Pro you know, is the Saucony racing version of, you know, the new technology that's coming out, and it's exciting to have the opportunity to race in those. Obviously there's been a lot of controversy around, you know, this sort of technology, but I think what's exciting now is the fact that it's becoming available to all. I think a lot of the controversy was in the early days when it wasn't accessible to everybody, and then it wasn't a level playing field. But you know, I've had a go in Endorphin Pro. I've done a lot of training in them, and I really like the way they feel. And so yeah, I haven't raced in them yet, but I think there's been so much going on. I think as far as some of the records that have been set in the new technology of certain shoes, that maybe they should have a system of having an asterisk against them or something when you're talking about world records, just because there has been a lot of improvements with the improvements of shoes going forward. But yeah, I mean, I'm enjoying the feel of the, you know, Endorphin Pro, and also the Endorphin Speed, which I found is really good for recovery running. I've really lately realised that some of these sort of shoes are actually really good for when my legs are tired and I can go for a run with a less feeling of work and impact going on, which I didn't realise would be a big benefit of them.
Right, interesting.
Yeah.
Go on, Mark.
The foam on the Endorphin Speed and the Endorphin Pros is just phenomenal. Like like my wife's got a pair of the Endorphin Speeds, and she absolutely raves about them. She loves them. So
yeah, I find them really good for, you feel like you can go for a road run without feeling the impact of the road, and that's what I really love about them. And the speed roll of them feels really good as well.
That's it. Great stuff. Well, Jo, we always finish up these podcasts with sort of 5 random questions that they're nothing to worry about, so don't worry. So it's just right. So the first one I'm gonna hit you with is you've just run a marathon. What's the first thing you eat and the first thing you drink?
I think when I finish a marathon, I feel so thirsty but sick at the same time. And so you feel like you just want to guzzle just any liquids whatsoever. And but you know that you can just feel sick as well. So yeah, first thing is just some kind of electrolyte sports drink. I think it's important to hydrate. And then as soon as you can, maybe have a sort of energy drink to refuel, some kind of protein thing. I would say, that recovery phase for the next few hours was really important, thinking about getting fluids and fuel back in. I would just probably, if it's hard to get to the hotel and that afterwards, I would have food at the event, which could be a sandwich, or if there's a buffet, I'd eat that, rice and a bit of chicken or whatever, get some fuel in. But I would also say, if I'd done a marathon, I'm going to want to have a glass of red wine in the evening. That's going to be important to celebrate that, after all the hard training that's gone in, and bearing in mind you can't race for a little while afterwards. I think that is something that would be on my mind once I've recovered properly, of course.
Right. Good stuff. Good stuff. Right, you can listen to one song to get you in the zone before a race. What do you listen to?
I mean, I love U2. I've been a lifelong fan of U2. I like many of the songs, obviously, but if I think about one to get in the mood, it has to be more of an upbeat one. So things like maybe Vertigo or Elevation, those sort of upbeat ones. But yeah, I've been lucky to go to the concert.
Good choice.
Yeah.
I think you might have sort of answered this one already, but what are your favourite trainers to wear?
I suppose for good all-rounder, I'd say the Ride. Obviously, racing on the road, the Endorphin Pro for recovery and Endorphin Speed. It depends. And trail running, Peregrine. I think I'm lucky with Saucony that there's a shoe for whatever purpose. The favourite shoe would be depending on what I was going to do, really, what sort of run or what terrain.
Okay, good on. Right, you've hit the wall and you're completely depleted and you're just about to quit in the race. Okay, you can see one person to get you through this tough spot. Who do you see and why?
Well, I think it should be my husband, don't you? Seeing as my husband, I if I said someone else, I think I'd be in trouble, wouldn't I? Yeah, so I'd go for my husband.
And this is a very random one, but we ask everyone here: what is your favourite cheese?
I just like cheddar. It's funny, you can spend lots of money on all the posh cheeses, which are really nice, but you can't beat mature cheddar.
Any chutney with that at all, Jo, or anything like that?
Yeah, pickle, chutney, yeah, crackers.
Good stuff. Well, thank you ever so much for your time, Jo. We really, really appreciate it.
Well, thanks so much. Love chatting.
Thanks, Jo. Thank you very much. I really enjoyed it. All the best with what you're trying to do. All right, achievements. All right.
Thanks so much. Really enjoyed chatting to you.
All right. God bless.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
So, John, I think it's time for training tip of the week, and you're going to talk about footwear, aren't you, a bit?
Yeah. For anybody that's obviously March the 28th, I think, is the opening update in the UK. For any young athletes that would normally get into spikes and do workouts and probably haven't done getting onto the track, I would advise maybe just going in some racing flats or a lighter racing shoe, just to protect the Achilles and getting used to that turnover and that speed in case you would end up getting injured. And for any of those that probably don't undercut the session, and probably talking about people that have come to running late and are now doing workouts on the track, and they should be maybe say hitting 80 seconds for 400 meters, bring it back to 84, 85 and let the body adapt. Because you're on a different surface, you get more on your toes, you could be asking the Achilles a lot. So just make sure you're sensible and don't think too mad at the beginning.
Right, John, we normally have Featherby's funnies, but we've got hijinks with John now. What have we got this week?
Obviously, speaking to Jo there, and that reminded me when we met years ago as Sam Hoffey, and he was a really, really good athlete with Windsor, Slough and Eton, and he died far too young. He was only 23, finished fourth in the Commonwealth Games, 13-19, but he was just the funniest lad. And, Jo was trying to do something now at 47 years of age. I was pushing, I think, 36, 37 at the time, and Sam was running against me, and we were running the Middlesex and things like South of England, the British Inter-Counties and stuff for Middlesex and so on. But I remember being at one of the races where we had a battle in the South of England. Nick Francis of Shaftesbury won it. Sam was second and I was third. But we were like literally right alongside each other. There was nothing between us. It was just thickness of singlets. And we were standing on the podium afterwards. And he just kept looking at me like this. And I said, "Are you all right? You shouldn't be here." I said, "What do you mean I shouldn't be here?" He said, "You're an old man. You're an old man. I'm an old man alongside me." And he couldn't accept, that where he was after coming back from injury, he was struggling. But it went on for the next few races. And I remember we were running the British Intercounties, and Guinea only beat me by a second. And he turned around in the tunnel and he said, "Will you ever just get lost? You're haunting me." And he was serious. It's funny now, but it wasn't. He was so, he just could not get his head. I said, "Sam, I used to be good one time." Yeah. He says, "Does that mean I'm now bad? Does that mean I'm now bad?" Because he was down where I was, But he got back to winning the English national and stuff again, but unfortunately taken far too young. But just been talking to Joe, that was reminding me of that funny story that, he just couldn't get his head round, that he saw me as being old and still there. So what I'm getting at is, I'm wondering how some of Joe's competitors are going to feel on that starting line looking, she's 47 years of age and she's still here. So that's my hijinks of the day.
They just can't get rid of her. Brilliant.
No, brilliant.